And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion on what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some clips from the news and having some dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find it Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. That's Coffee Talk and Prepper University. Two very oppressed channels, unfortunately. They've been crushing them for 2.5, almost 3 years now. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Being joined today by two felines in the room. You can't see him, though. Miss Kitty, who is laying on the floor. I can show you Miss Kitty. Miss Kitty's laying on the floor right there. And Monkey is in the room, hiding under the desk back there somewhere. And I do, of course, try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see. So I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people who have chimed in thus far. I see Urban Angst is here, as well as H12. He says thunderstorms are on the way. Helter is here. Dragon is here. Holly, Cyberjack Sr. Who else is here? John is here. Brian, Spectre. He says on time. Yes. And of course, the other day I was very late because there was no cable. It was down from roughly 6 a.m. to about 4 p.m. on Monday. So as we get ready to jump off, and I see Kimberly has joined us as well. Get ready to jump off and take a look at what's going on in the world, our crazy, insane world that we are trapped in. You know, life isn't so hard. It's the people in it that make it complicated. As we get ready to jump off, we'll take a look at Venezuela. And this has been going on for the last couple of days. Reuters article, protests spread in Venezuela as anger grows over disputed election. And, you know, for those of you who can see the image, that's a good shot. That's a really good shot. Speaking in terms of photography, a lot is said with that image. And that's what you want when you're taking professional photographs. That's a really good shot. So the aftermath of the presidential election in Venezuela. A demonstrator reacts when Molotov cocktails hit the ground in front of security forces during protests against election results after Venezuela's president Maduro and his opposition rival Edmundo Gonzalez both claimed victory in Sunday's presidential election in Puerto La Cruz, Venezuela, on July 29th. Supporters of Venezuelan President Nicolas, that's talking about the person holding the sign. I don't care. Get to the meat of the story. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado and opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez gesture as they address supporters after election results awarded Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro with a third term in Caracas, Venezuela on July 30th. Yeah, third term, because things are going so well there. And now we have Bolivarian National Guard detained demonstrators as people gather to protest. That's that photo. Supporters of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro gesture from their apartments during a march to defend the election results. And the bottom line is they don't know for sure who won. Maduro has allegedly won a third term in office. But the opposition also claims he won. He also won. So they both say that they won, but Maduro is the guy in power. And there are massive violent protests fighting with police, burning cars, throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks, the whole 9 yards. National Guard are in the streets. There's fighting in the streets. And essentially what people are asking for is to see the election results. We want to see the results because they have not been disclosed. And, you know, quite frankly, from my perspective, I'm like, if they released results to you, would you trust them? What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Spectre says an epidemic of scorpions in Texas. Haven't seen one out here for a while. Fluke Man has joined us as well as Raccoon Eyes. So what does that mean? That means we're going to have riots in the streets because that's what people do. As you can see here, demonstrators bang pots during protests against election results after Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and his opposition rival Edmundo Gonzalez claimed victory in Sunday's presidential election. So they both say they won, but only one of them is sitting in the office of the president. And he said, yeah, buddy, it's me, and sent out the National Guard. Kind of like how when Biden won the election and called in 24,000 National Guard troops and surrounded the Capitol building with fences. Remember that? And there was some protesting then. Venezuela is going to be a lot harder on protesters than we are. And it's important to consider this for two reasons. One, what they're really protesting is their socialist government because it's destroyed that country. And people want that here. Oh, but it'll be okay. Democratic socialism. Okay, change the title. It'll be better somehow. It'll work better than it has anywhere else. This is people who don't study history or are brainwashed into believing that it'll be different this time around. Secondly, this could happen here at this level or worse. Could happen here because such division has been sown into the American people by the media, by politicians, by celebrities of various types. They've sown so much division into the American people that it could come to this, where people are fighting in the streets, a whole another civil war, as it were. Helter says they voted shady politicians into the system, but it's hard to remove them. That's correct. It's very hard to get them out because they will be obeyed. They will be obeyed. Who is out here fighting these crowds? Who's out here fighting with these crowds? The police, the National Guard, and the Army. Why? Because they're going to follow orders. Don't think it won't happen here. Dragon says Venezuela just exemplifies the so-called resource curse. It has an absolutely staggering amount of natural wealth, including the most oil on earth, and it cannot climb out of the mire of corruption. And Tuck says Mexico has the third largest petroleum reserves, and the entire petroleum industry is owned by the awesome, excellent, magnificent government. Yeah. And how well does that work out for anybody? There's no benefit to any of them. Venezuela has options. They cut those options off. They sealed those options. It's happening here. Biden cut off our oil reserves. Forced us to be codependent on other countries for oil. That's why your gas prices are high. Try telling that to anyone. Try telling that to anyone. And Monkey is here. Glad you could make it. They'll sit there and they'll say that the gas prices are high because of greedy oil corporations. The gas prices are high because we've gone from being independent for oil to codependent on other countries. When gas pipelines were shut down. And also because of the taxes. You know, the majority of what you pay at the pump is taxes. The lion's share is taxes. When I worked for Cumberland Farms, it was back in the 90s. It was a long time ago. But when I worked for Cumberland Farms, what they told us was that they made less than 10 cents per gallon on gas sales. And that the majority of the money that the Cumberlands made was from in-store purchases. That most of the money is absorbed into fees and taxes from the gas sales. Do you think? So you're pumping what, average of what, $3.50 a gallon now? And how much of it is tax? How much of it is because we're getting a lot of our gas from overseas now instead of pumping it ourselves? We could be completely independent. We should be energy independent from other countries. Tuck says a lot of the more well-off Venezuelans voted for this evil trash and fled the country as soon as the ship started sinking. And that's an important point. And Jane has joined us, as well as JJ. That's the point that I make a lot about a lot of the celebrities in the United States. I want you to keep pushing for these types of agendas because it will not affect them. It won't affect them. It doesn't matter who's in office. White women for Harris, dudes for her. Seriously? Seriously? And the people that are behind that, it's not going to hurt them. And they can get out of here. We're stuck. We're the ones that are going to get screwed over. JJ says Venezuela used to be an economic powerhouse a little over 20 years ago. How far it has fallen since Chavez and Maduro? Correct. And Brian says if you like or support Biden, you're either a dyke, illegal immigrant, or mentally retarded. Oh, no. And spec independent. And it's very important to be independent of energy and food and water resources. If you can manage that, you can manage everything else. Food, water, and power. If you don't need to rely on anyone else for that, and we've been put into a position of relying on other countries for some of these things now, especially the power, mostly power. Not so much water, but power, definitely. Monkey says, unfortunately, their mother believes the evil corporations are why gas prices are higher. Compare it to under Trump before the C virus. But yeah, we're not that far away from being in this position. Really. We're not that far away from being in this position ourselves. I could see that happening after the election. Especially from the left. For as tolerant as they claim to be, they can be really violent. They can be really violent. Tuck says their uncle owned a Chevron station, I assume, gas station, in late 70s and mid 80s, made nothing from fuel sales. Almost all profits were from auto repair, except little from the drinks and such. Yes. And Fluke says people complaining oil companies make billions, but forget they pay taxes, wages, machinery, tools, equipment, and etc. And number one Marvel fan made it. Monkey says people say the president can't control gas prices. You can by being the initiative on us not being dependent on other countries for oil. Exactly. Between taxes and being codependent versus independent on oil imports, that makes all the difference. And the president decides that. And Biden closed our pipelines and shut down our ability to open up new drilling operations. And whether you want to take care of you can do that and still be a good steward of the environment. And the oil companies over the years have learned to be real careful with how they do their pipelines and everything else so as not to disrupt environments so they don't get into lawsuits. Okay? And Brian reminds us we didn't need to rely on other countries, including for oil, when Trump was in office. Yeah, but that's why they say dudes for her. White dudes for Harris. As we saw white women for Harris and then white dudes for Harris, which was extremely cringeworthy. Extremely cringeworthy. Listening, we read some of that yesterday. Some of the comments from that, because there was a conflict of interest with X and their account got blocked. But they had, as I understand it, multiple accounts with the same name, and it triggered the algorithm. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was done deliberately. It wouldn't surprise me if that was done deliberately. So we get all these washed up celebrities who really, really want to be remembered again. Bridges and Mark Hamill and other guys that are basically surviving off of the autograph circuit now because they haven't been in a real movie in forever. They're not working anymore. Scale Diesel says Democrats love to spend other people's money. Yeah, it's easy when it's someone else's money. And the first order of business for any lawmaker should be to be a good steward of tax funds. Number one, be a good steward of the tax funds. How am I spending this money or why? Not who gives a shit, will get more, which is the common attitude there. But yeah, white dudes for Harris. And it was pretty pathetic. It was pretty pathetic. And I'm going to try to catch this here. I have a real short clip that I wanted to show that has a collage of some of these guys talking. If I can get it pulled up properly, because I don't know quite where it starts. Let me see here. White dudes for Harris. I just want to get it at the right moment. And I'll play this clip for you. I'll take down that image. And Cruising is here. It says, managed to catch you this time. Been working nights. Been eating a pillow at this time most of the summer. Okay. Yeah, and Cruising, of course, works for the education system. So they get the summer off, so to speak. In Florida, are you allowed to file for unemployment when you're off for the summer? Some places let you do that. And then Flukeman says the British Prime Minister is determined to ban all sales of gas-powered vehicles and replace them with EV by 2030. Hope 2028. The Brits will vote to reform the UK party. We'll see what happens. And the Warden says that image says it all. Well, so will this. Get ready for your cringe-worthy moment. I'm borrowing this from Fox News. Okay. It's part of a news clip, but it's got a collage of these washed up, well-known, but washed up celebrities. J.J. Abrams. No, J.J. Abrams not that washed up, but J.J. Abrams, Mark Hamill, who is an autograph king now. Jeff Bridges, some of the bigger names on there. Just listen to how sorry these people are. It's really, it really is kind of scary.
So much of politics is just vibes. Having said that, the vibes right now are incredible.
I was brought to the party not so much as being white, and I certainly am, but because I'm a dude. I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
The idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel. Interesting, powerful concept.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. It's like a rainbow of beige.
My God. Are you sick yet? Oh my God. Are you sick yet? A rainbow of beige. And this is all they can talk about. That's all they can talk about. And how great it'd be to have a female president. Why? Does she have that spectacular of a political track record? It's so great. It's so powerful that we have a place, a safe space where we can talk. Are you that much of a coward that you have to find space to express your beliefs? Seriously? So I should curl up in a corner and suck my thumb because I get plenty of hate doing this. And I'm only talking to a handful of people. Seriously. Megan says, I believe they are driving people out of the Democratic Party on purpose. None of the Dems that I know see anything over the last 4 years or anything they support, and they won't vote Harris. Oh, but the media is telling you that they will. Cruising says, no unemployment allowed. Okay, and usually they teach through the summer, but your brother took you on a trip in June, and you couldn't apply for the teaching. I understand. And the Jericho said someone had to have paid them, holy hell, and they're all actors. And Kimberly said, Jeff Bridges, really? Yeah, that was him with the beard. And Tuck says, didn't Hamill crap on the Star Wars franchise for years over being typecast? If so, Star Wars fans should reject him. And Scale says it's a rainbow of shut the hell up. Yeah, and Cyberjack says J.J. Abrams isn't an actor. Yeah, he's a director, right? And Monkey says, no way that this is legit. They're very likely doing it for the money. Who knows why they're doing it? Maybe this is how they're going to get to work again. And Tuck says Jeff Bridges was great in his last 10 seconds of Iron Man. He says this is like the 2016 election with Hillary being all of a sudden very popular and Madam President. Yeah. And Sven says he got sick. Oh, I'm sorry, Sven. I'm sorry. Wasn't that just ridiculous, though? These people are just sad. It's sad. And there's no talking points. There's no talking points here. They don't tell you why they want to vote for her outside of the fact that she's black and female, and she's really not even black.
Politics is just vibes. Having said that, the vibes right now are incredible.
I was brought to the party not so much as being white, and I certainly am, but because I'm a dude. I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
That's about all he had to say, too. What's your talking points? Why do you think she should be elected?
The idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel. Interesting, powerful concept.
So men never got together and talked. Okay.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. It's like a rainbow of beige.
Oh my God. It's so sad. It's so sad, isn't it? Kimberly says they wish actors would stay out of politics. I enjoy the movies, but it's hard for me to watch the movies now. I know they ruin it for you, don't they? It does. It ruins it. It really ruins it for everybody. But it was pretty pathetic. It was pretty pathetic. But yeah, I mean, what are your talking points? What are you trying to convince us of? What are you trying to convince us of? And why are you voting for her? Because she's female? Because she's darker? It's not a good reason. You know, there's a lot of people, too, that are voting for her because simply they don't like Donald Trump. So what? Will he do the job? And Charmaine says, I think it's got something to do with the with their taxes. And Tuck says, pasty rich octogenarian pervs for Harris. Oh my God. And then Helter says, imagine if Trump had a white guys for Trump, not labeling would happen from the left. No labeling. That would be, yeah, he couldn't have that. He couldn't have that because that would be considered racist. And if he had black dudes for Trump, then they would be white adjacent. And then they would lose the credibility of their blackness. Seriously. Tuck says dudes are so distanced from real life they can't just get together and talk with others. Good, stay home. Yeah. They are distanced. They are out of touch with reality. They are desperately out of touch with reality. And I don't want to know how this last meme started out, because I'm sure that I'm like, where the hell did you get that image from? Never mind. I don't want to know. Oh my God. Oh my God. But one of the main reasons actually that a lot of females I read, this is interesting. I read somewhere that the reason a lot of women say that they don't like Trump is because he was unfaithful, that he went and found a side piece in his relationship, i.e. the whole Stormy Daniels thing. Okay. Most of these women probably cheated on somebody, number one. Number two, you're refusing to vote for Trump because Trump got him a side piece, and you're going to one-up him by voting for someone who was the side piece. That's how she got into politics. Who remembers Willie Brown? Never mind Montel Williams. Who remembers Willie Brown? Willie Brown, mayor of San Francisco, who was Kamala Harris's mentor. Was her mentor. Okay? He was in his 60s. She was 20 years old. He was married with 3 children, and they had an affair, and that's how she broke into politics. But that's okay because she's black and female. Tuck says entertainers accuse average Joes of being in echo chambers, but they're projecting. They spend all their time with a handful of people in the same industry. Yeah, and those people kiss their ass. They're yes men. They suck up to them, tell them anything they want to hear. Tell them they're always right. Pat them on the back for everything. And Tuck says Marion Barry smoked crack, Willie Brown smoked Harris. There you go. There you go. But I mean, it's being picked on relentlessly now. Picked on relentlessly because of this whole white women and white dudes thing. Even USA Today, which is extremely liberal now. USA Today article, white women and white dudes pledge their allegiance to Kamala Harris. Quote, talk about weird. Imagine for a minute that supporters of former President Donald Trump advertised fundraising calls that would be for white women and white men only. The uproar among the left and the news media would be immediate, and accusations of racism and sexism would surely follow. Yet, if Democrats do it, apparently it's okay. In recent days, that's exactly what has happened. On Thursday, nearly 200,000 white women hopped onto a 2-hour Zoom call and reportedly raised at least $11 million for newly anointed presumptive Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris. And then, not to be outdone, a bunch of self-proclaimed, quote, white dudes joined a call Monday to do the same, although they couldn't raise as much as the women did. And by the way, the celebrity talking heads that were in that Zoom call made the largest donations. Other groups have held similar calls, including Win with Black Women, Latinas for Harris, Win with Black Men, and Black, Gay, and Queer Men for Harris. Oh my God. Harris, who is in the honeymoon period of her newfound candidacy now that President Biden has been booted, has taken to calling Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, weird. I would consider that these segregated fundraisers are just plain weird, but they also speak to the Democratic Party's obsession with race and gender. That's a very good point. Because why do you need to showcase that you are black, female, gay, white, whatever, black woman, white man, white woman? I'm a white person and I'm voting for Harris. Why can't I just say I'm voting for Harris if I am? No, I'm a white dude and I'm voting for Harris. You gotta put it on blast. You gotta put it on blast. Why do you need to do that? And that is cringe racist. Or it would be if anyone else was doing it. It says this feels like a replay of Hillary Clinton in 2016. Good point. Since I am a white woman, I want to focus on the white woman answer the call fundraiser, which featured celebrities and Democratic politicians. Spoiler, it will be an insufferable 2 hours. TikTok influencer and former kindergarten teacher Ariel Fodor, one of the speakers on the call, addressed the women as if they were children. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. Oh my God. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOCs, which is an acronym for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat and instead we can put our listening ears on. Jesus. Yeah, that would be insufferable to have to listen to that for 2 hours. Let me catch up a couple of comments here really quick. Brian says women follow trends more than guys, which is part of why they dislike Trump, because that's what's part of the in crowd. Also because they claim he is racist. He did more for races than other presidents. Tuck says Harris might be bitter about how she got started in politics, the same way Hillary had to ride Bill's coattails for years while being cuckolded. Marvel fan says this thing, just like 2016 went, Trump will win, needs to win. So many bad things coming overseas. I feel Trump will stop and prevent just that alone. I hope people research the truth. Well, that's part of the problem, Marvel, is that nobody researches anything. They read a headline, they don't even read the article, and they just latch onto an emotion. They don't research it. They don't deep dive into it. Most people don't. That's why I like to pick this stuff apart. Pick it apart, think about it. Even if I'm wrong, at least I'm taking it apart and trying to understand it better. If there's a poll, I want to see the polling data. I'm not just going to read the headline. Poll says 70 people prefer Harris. What poll? Where? How many people? Most people won't even open the article. Dragon says these people have nothing good going in their lives. They feel the need to rub their traits in our face to make themselves feel important. And Robert says it's a load of baloney. Yes, indeed. John says instead of voting, I'm having a root beer float. There you go. Taxation is extortion. Yes, indeed. Not theft. It's extortion because they force you to pay it. Theft, they just take it from you and leave. Monkey says these feel like it borders between racism and fetishism, with honing it in on race for Harris. And and they call Trump supporters cultists. They how many times have you seen an image of the 3 people? I think it was 3, right? In the audience that put a bandage on their ear. I guess they thought it was solidarity. Those pictures are everywhere. Like all Trump supporters were doing that. And I see comments like, oh my God, this is insane. This is like, this is cult type stuff. This is Jim Jones all over again. Yeah, okay. This is cultish. Dudes for Harris. That's a cult. Heidi says Trump's first 4 years are what convinced me. Yeah, he got rid of the, most notably, he got rid of the housing and neighborhood development law that kept certain districts from restricting Section 8 housing, which caused a lot of turmoil in many neighborhoods across the country. It's part of the reason why my wife had to move when she used to live in Stone Mountain before we got married under the Obama administration. And he enacted that law. And they put HUD in her neighborhood, and her house kept getting broken into. Everybody's was. That's convincing enough by itself. It caused turmoil all across the country. There's a reason why a lot of places will not take Section 8 housing. Trust me. Trust me. He got rid of that law that forced you to get health insurance. Keep in mind, the same people giving it away to illegal immigrants want to force you to pay for it or fine you if you can't afford it. Flukeman says Trump should have a new slogan saying you're going to vote for Biden and Harris is not the same as actually voting for them. Yeah, and Flukeman wants to know how will they ensure Team Harris can't do election frauds? They won't. You can't ensure that. We don't know what's going on. A lot of people are convinced now that it's not just a conspiracy theory. It's not just a conspiracy theory. Now, back to the Olympics for a little bit here, because some more stuff has come up on this. Because again, unless you're the government, you can't hide anything on the internet anymore. It'll turn up sooner or later. Western Journal, Olympics are scrambling to deny mocking Jesus' Last Supper despite already admitting that they did. Officials for the Paris Olympics initially said that the drag queen extravaganza that marked the controversial opening of the games was in fact based upon the iconic Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. Then they tried to walk it back. After a resounding wave of condemnation of the anti-Christian themed opening because became too intense to ignore, officials said there was no connection between dolled up drag queens and the Last Supper, and that contradicted what was said days earlier. So all this time, they're trying to claim that it was actually a reenactment of Thomas Jolly's. Was it Jolly? Or am I reading that name right? No, Jan van Bilgert, the Feast of the Gods, is what they've been claiming it was based on. But they had previously stated it was supposed to be the Last Supper, and then they walked it back afterwards when they got into trouble for it. And it's continued to have plagued them because this guy is actually naked, and you can see his genitalia. And there are children on that stage and children watching at home when this was live broadcast. And now the FCC is involved. They allowed this to happen. They're claiming that they're not mocking the Last Supper. And I've seen the arguments that the Last Supper has been homaged before, which I've seen that. I've seen the Last Supper with The Simpsons. I've seen the Last Supper with Marvel characters. Those are homages to the painting. This is a parody of the painting. That's the difference. That is the difference. Marvel says, I know for a fact will say voting for Biden or Harris because they fear they might get in trouble saying Trump like it could be posted and found. No one will know. I'll say Harris, so risky saying Trump. Anything this info gets out and people lose jobs over it. I know. Could be like vote a certain way. And she kept telling him, they said that I don't have to tell you who I voted for, and I ain't gonna. Tuck says the primary reason they're backpedaling is because they angered quite a few Muslims, did they? Inspector says what's needed is a reparation of the repatriation, of the Constitution and all other original documents that's been distorted. Yeah, because most people don't even understand what the hell they mean. It's not taught. They don't understand what it means. Nothing. See, there's a child right there in the yellow. And I know there were others. But now they're trying to, any excuse they can come up with, it doesn't fly at this point. It does not fly at this point. And they've blown it all the way around. You already know. Again, they're in trouble with the FCC. They're in trouble with the organizers from other countries. They're in trouble with the teams. I've heard that Japan is likely pulling out. because they don't like the way the scoring system is going. They think it's biased, that something's wrong with the scoring system. Brian says, sorry if the comments sound crazy or harsh. They're venting a little bit. It's okay, Brian. Irish Star article. The athletes aren't being treated very well. And apparently, according to the Irish Star here, neither are the visitors. Olympic fans are fuming. We're being treated like dirt in dreadful conditions amid scorching Paris heat wave. Because it's like 95, 100 degrees in Paris right now. Which is why the athletes were complaining that they weren't allowed to have air conditioning. I'm sleeping on a cardboard bed in a little box of a room with no air and 9500 degree heat. I can't sleep, and you expect me to perform in the morning? Olympic fans struggled to get their hands on food and beverage on Tuesday as temperatures soared to a sweltering 35 Celsius or 95 degrees in Paris after unexpected downpours disrupted the opening ceremonies. A heat wave swept across the city, fans battling intense heat. However, event organizers have come under fire for treating fans like dirt due to long queues at venues. At least 2 people needed medical attention after falling ill at Roland Garros, where temperatures rocketed. Many fans had tickets to watch Sir Anthony Murray in doubles action, as well as Spanish star Rafa Nadal teaming up with fellow countryman and Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz. Long queues could be seen at refreshment kiosks and water fountains, with some spectators waiting more than 30 minutes to refill bottles. Courts were doused with water between games, while players were given a 10-minute break before the third set of singles matches to shower and change. Announcements at venues famous for hosting the French Open urged spectators to take action before starting to feel the effect of heat. However, National Weather Service Metro France predicted storms, light rain, and more storms. One disgruntled fan fumed on X. I don't care what they said on X. I hate reading those. So now the fans feel like they're being abused out there too. They've really blown this entire Olympic game. They've ruined it. And you can blame Paris if you want to, but remember, the Olympic Committee is still overseeing everything that they do. Fluke Man wants to know if anyone heard about the Irish got extremely angry after foreigners attacked families in a park. Protests and riots. Same thing is happening now in England. 17-year-olds attacked three preteen girls. That's been happening. That's been going on, unfortunately. And in Ireland, there has been several scuffles over the last year involved in that. And just to make the point here, I want to pull up images of these beds so that you can see for yourself what they're talking about with these cardboard beds. Let me see if I can find the right one. Cardboard beds in a little room. It's really kind of pathetic. Here we go. This is a good one. I don't know how well you can see the image. See, it's literally cardboard boxes that have been assembled together, and it says Paris 2024 on it. And Fluke Man says Prime Minister laid flowers for the girls. Can't help. He did it for show. Of course, he did it for show. And Jane is still on white dudes for Harris. Can't let it go. And Tuck says left can't meme or run the Olympics. No, they can't. You can see it clearly right there. It's boxes. That's what they mean by a cardboard bed. Okay? And on top of that, let me see if I can find the right image here. That right there is an image of one of the athletes destroying the bed because they were pissed off. But I'm trying to find, does one of these pictures have the corner pulled out? There. This one right here exposes the mattress. And for those of you who can see the image, the bottom left-hand corner where the sheet is exposed, and they're showing you it's like a 2-inch foam insert, like packing peanuts, styrofoam. That's what this is. That's the mattress. Is a styrofoam rectangle on top of this cardboard bed. That's what they've been sleeping on. And I wanted to demonstrate that because we talked about that, and I don't know if anybody has seen these images of what it is that they've been complaining about with the beds. And if you can imagine in a room, and that person has a fan, they're fortunate. No air conditioning, it's 95 plus degrees outside. You're sleeping on styrofoam, which is hot. You're essentially sleeping on a packing peanuts mat on a cardboard bed, or trying to sleep, rolling around, sweating all night. You get up in the morning, there's no food. They're trying to force feed you a vegan diet of rationed vegetables, and you're supposed to go give a peak Olympic performance. It's no wonder no records have been broken. Inspector says, you know where the money's going. Yeah, big bonuses all around. And Cyberjack says, sounds like it has wonderful cooling properties. I bet. That's got to be just fantastic. That's going to be fantastic. Furthermore, this is going on because, you know, they're allowing transmogrified athletes. But the transmogrified boxers technically should have been disqualified and were allowed in anyways. And the other athletes are complaining. They don't want to fight them. ESPN, Aussie boxing captain Caitlin Parker questions game's dangerous gender calls. Caitlin Parker believes the Olympics' approval of 2 boxers who had failed gender eligibility tests is incredibly dangerous ahead of a potential showdown between one of the boxers in question and one of her teammates in Paris. Australian boxing captain Parker led from the front on Wednesday, dominating Mexico's Vanessa Ortiz with a unanimous points decision to reach the quarterfinals. It follows an earlier loss for Shannon Davy to Bulgaria's Rami Mofid, with Charlie Sr. still to fight later in the day. Marissa Williamson will make her Olympic debut on Wednesday in a women's 66 kilogram division, now in the spotlight after the International Olympic Committee confirmed 2 boxers who were disqualified from the World Championships last year for failing gender eligibility tests will be allowed to fight in Paris. And that's Iman Khalif of Algeria and Taiwan's Lin Yuting, both due to get medals at the 2023 Worlds in New Delhi until being disqualified by the International Boxing Association. The IBA has no part in running Olympic boxing in a fallout from a years-long dispute with the IOC. Basically, the Olympic Committee threw the IBA out because they considered the IBA's standards for allowing trans boxers to be too strict. Yeah, I'd be worried too. Have you seen any of these fights? Anybody? Fluke Man suggests they got the mattresses as a packing material when they ordered the cardboard bed from Amazon. Very good, Fluke Man. That's a good one. And it's probably true. It's probably true. But can you imagine that? Have you seen any of these? Look at any of these UFC fights or any of those mixed martial arts fights or any of these boxing events where they've got a so-called trans dude in the ring with a female, and see how badly she gets pummeled in those videos. It's horrible. It's scary to watch. What you cannot change, okay, I'm taking a testosterone blocker. You're required to take a testosterone blocker for at least 4 months or whatever the rule is. It's something, it really doesn't make any sense. Look it up. Males have an average of 75% more upper body muscle and are technically 90% stronger than a female counterpart in the same weight category. That's scary. And these female Olympiads, they have a right to be nervous. And can you imagine, you train for that? You spend years training for that. You make it to the Olympics, and it's like, oh, well, you're fighting a dude, but not really. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It'll be all right. Crushing their hopes and dreams. Dreamers who actually worked for their dream getting crushed. Why bother? And Tuck says there's already video of a Presto Changeo boxer beating a female boxer, or beating on. And Spectre says he's never watched the Olympics and haven't watched any sports in 27 years. Once upon a time, the Olympics required a thorough medical examination to prove you were female before entering a women's event. They wanted to be 100% sure you were actually a woman. Now you got to present a piece of paper. And Fluke Man says Falcon Fox is sick, cracked a woman's skull, didn't tell event organizers and the opponent he's actually a dude. And they're worried. They're worried, and I don't blame them. Quote, I don't agree with them being allowed to compete in sports, especially combat sports, Parker said. It can be incredibly dangerous. I don't agree with it. It's not like I haven't sparred men before, but it can be dangerous for combat sports, and it should be seriously looked into. Yeah, and there's a big difference with having a male sparring partner in a controlled situation and being in a straight-up competition. Sparring partner is not looking to take your head off. Cyberjack wants a squad of female ninjas to take out the Transformers. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, no. But that's what's going on there also. That is what's going on there also. And Chris says, stop the world. I want to get off. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's scary, isn't it? It's scary, isn't it? And it's being allowed to happen. And you're robbing these people. Tell me about feminism again. How does that work? How does that work? Oh, well, now we're women too. So what are you going to do now? Be double women? How are you going to fix this? It's got to stop somewhere. It's got to stop somewhere. Like Chris said, stop the world. I want to get off. One more update. One more update on Christopher Dunn. Christopher Dunn, as you all well know, I've talked about him a couple of times. He was being held in prison. He had been in prison for almost 34 years. It turns out he's innocent. Judge ordered him to be released. The prison refused to release him. They ignored 2 court orders to release him. Then they finally give in and release him, and then reacquire him as he's leaving the prison. reacquire him as he's leaving the prison because they wanted to send it to another court. And this is from KFVS TV. This is a local station out of Missouri. He is coming home. Christopher Dunn released from prison Tuesday. So they finally, and that's Christopher Dunn on the right with the glasses. And it says right here, Christopher Dunn officially released from custody on the steps of the Carnahan Courthouse in downtown St. Louis Tuesday evening. It came hours after the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that a St. Louis judge did not have the authority to order Dunn's release from prison after vacating his murder conviction. In a majority opinion, the court also said the State Department of Corrections does not have the authority to detain Dunn because he no longer has a conviction on his record. The court ordered Dunn to be remanded back to St. Louis City Public Safety Division in the jurisdiction where the alleged crime was committed, of which he was convicted in 1991 of a murder of a 15-year-old Rico Rogers, and has spent more than 33 years in prison. Once his conviction was vacated earlier this month, the Missouri Supreme Court stated the charges had been reinstated and that Dunn had the status of a pretrial detainee. However, the Tuesday ruling from the Missouri Supreme Court prohibits the circuit court from ordering Dunn's release without allowing the state an opportunity to retry him. The St. Louis Circuit Attorney Office filed the motion to vacate Dunn's conviction February. In a statement Tuesday, the circuit attorney official said it would not retry Dunn, moving him a step closer to freedom. So you got to love all that red tape and kicking this guy back and forth. He's probably having a freaking nervous breakdown, wondering if he's going to leave or not. And he's already not Dunn anymore. Whoever he was when he went to prison, that's not who he is now. His life's been destroyed. His family's life's been destroyed. The lives of the family of the victim have been misled, thinking that the right person was given justice. Flukeman says fourth wave feminism is all about how you feel. Well, wave one was we're as good as men. Wave two was we're better than men. Wave three was we don't need a man at all. We don't need a man at all. And wave four is we are men. We are men. So what they said basically was the Supreme Court that the judge didn't have the authority to remove him from the jail, which is why they wouldn't let him go, but that also the jail didn't have authority to continue to detain him anyways. So let him go. And the reason that they were detaining him was because technically they had the right to retry him, but then the circuit court says, we're not going to do that. So let him out. Finally. And Zane is here, very late in the game. Kimberly says they know how he will file a big lawsuit, and rightfully so, trying to keep him incarcerated. I don't know if Missouri does it. Many states have a provision that for every year that you are unlawfully detained, that you're entitled to $100,000, which means that he would be entitled to $3.4 million at this point. Problem with that is, one, they almost never pay it, and you have to take them to court. And then, of course, the courts will eventually find in his favor after a couple of years of court battles. But then they still don't pay it, and you have to take them to court again to enforce the ruling. So he'll be years in court. Secondly, it's taxpayer money anyways. Where does that money going to come from? The judge who convicted him? It's going to come from the taxpayers. It's going to come from the taxpayers. And with that, I will go ahead and start wrapping things up as we are at the top of the hour. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And you can join the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University on YouTube. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will see